It was 4:47 in the morning of June 23, 1944. Somewhere over the oil fields of Ploesti, Romania, Second Lieutenant David Kingsley is crouched in the nose of a B-17 Flying Fortress. His hands are steady over his bomb sight as he breathes recycled air through a rubber oxygen mask at 23,000 feet. Around him, the sky is already filling with black smoke caused by thousands of 88mm shells exploding in coordinated walls of iron designed to tear aircraft apart before they reach their targets. His plane has already taken hits, and worse, the formation has left them behind. What happens next will cost David Kingsley everything, and it will save a life that wasn't his to lose. David Richard Kingsley was born on June 27, 1918, in Portland, Oregon. He was the second of 9 children. His father, David Ross Kingsley, worked as a machinist. His mother, Angelina, kept the house together. They were not wealthy people. In fact, they were the kind of family where every pair of shoes got handed down twice before they were thrown out. By the time David was in his early 20s, both his parents were gone. His oldest brother was already in the Navy, and that left David. He stepped in without being asked, working as a firefighter in Portland while also raising his younger siblings. He was 23 years old and already carrying a grown man's weight. He stood 5'10", 165 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. He was engaged to a woman named Harriet Zalabak. He had a life mapped out and a seemingly bright future with a shape to it. Then the war started, and David signed up anyway. On April 14, 1942, David enlisted at Portland Army Air Base. He trained as a bombardier and earned his commission as a second lieutenant in July 1943. By the summer of 1944, he was flying combat missions out of Italy with the 97th Bombardment Group, 15th Air Force. His job was simple in theory. All he had to do was sit in the nose of the aircraft, look through a Norden bomb sight, and put bombs on target. And David was really good at it. Everything else, the fighters, the flak, the cold, the noise, was just the cost of doing the job. Here's where things start to go wrong, though. So the B-17 crews of the 15th Air Force were being sent somewhere that sent shivers down the spines of even the most experienced pilots. That place was Ploesti. The oil refineries at Ploesti, Romania supplied roughly a third of Nazi Germany's entire petroleum output. Knock them out and you choke the Wehrmacht's fuel supply. This seemed like pretty straightforward logic, but in reality, the execution was absolutely catastrophic, and the Germans knew it too. They had ringed Ploesti with more anti-aircraft guns per square mile than almost anywhere else on the continent. 360-degree coverage with multiple altitude layers and thousands of rounds in reserve. In the summer of 1943, a low-level raid on Ploesti by American B-24s had killed 310 men in a single afternoon. 53 out of 178 aircraft never came home. It became known as Black Sunday. And yet, the raids continued, because unfortunately, the math of the war demanded it. By 1944, bomber crews flying into Ploesti understood something that the men who planned these missions sometimes underestimated. The Germans had calculated the exact altitudes the B-17s flew at. They knew the approach corridors, and they had pre-registered their guns. When you flew the bomb run over Ploesti, you were flying into a system built specifically to kill you. David knew this. In fact, every man in his crew knew this. But they flew the mission anyway. David and his crewmates were still on the bomb run when the first flak hit found them, and then, almost immediately, a second hit followed. 2 engines took damage, and the aircraft began to fall behind the formation. In bomber warfare, falling behind the formation was a death sentence with a short delay. Straggling aircraft were wolves' food. Every Luftwaffe pilot in the area knew to watch for the ones dropping out of the sky. David held his position because the target was still ahead, so he kept his eyes on the bomb sight and put the bombs on target. Then The Messerschmitts came. 3 Me-109s peeled out of the sky and hit the crippled B-17 in coordinated passes. Cannons and machine guns tore through the fuselage, and the aircraft absorbed it. Men in the back were calling over the intercom. The tail gunner had been hit, and it was bad. A 20-millimeter shell had opened up his upper arm, and he was losing blood fast. David climbed out of the nose and made his way back through the aircraft. He found the tail gunner pale and shaking, blood soaking through his flight suit. David quickly applied the field dressing, found the bleed, and controlled it. He stripped the man's heavy outer clothing and covered him with blankets. The tail gunner was going to live, at least for now. Then 8 more Me-109s came. This time, the ball turret gunner caught shrapnel from a 20-millimeter hit. He came forward, bleeding, barely able to walk. David treated him too. He decided then that whatever happened next, these men were going home. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, and he told the crew to prepare to bail out. The aircraft was disintegrating around them. Hydraulics were gone, and engines were burning. At this point, the fuselage had also taken so many hits that it was a miracle it was still in one piece. One more pass from the fighters, maybe two, and it wouldn't be. David began moving the wounded men toward the bailout positions, helping them into their parachute harnesses. And then he found the problem. The tail gunner's parachute harness had been tangled in the blankets and clothing that had been stripped off him during treatment. In the chaos of the fight, no one had kept track of it. When they went to put it on him now, it was gone, or badly damaged, or missing entirely. No one could say for certain. What they knew was this: there was one harness, and it wasn't on the man who needed it most. There was no order for what David did next. He simply reached down, unclipped his own parachute harness, and began fitting it onto the wounded tail gunner. He buckled it carefully, checked the straps, and told the gunner to keep his hand on the ripcord and pull it when he was clear of the plane. David then helped the man to the bomb bay and told him to jump. One by one, the crew went out through the bomb bay doors, falling clear into the Romanian sky. The tail gunner, wearing David's harness, looked back before he jumped. He later described what he saw. David was standing on the bomb bay catwalk, calm, with a firm and solemn expression on his face. The tail gunner said there was no fear in his eyes at all. All he saw was just a man who had already made his decision and was at peace with it. The tail gunner pulled the ripcord and fell away from the aircraft. The B-17 continued on autopilot for a short distance. Then it went into a final descent and crashed into the ground near the village of Suhozem in central Bulgaria, and it burned. David's body was found in the wreckage. The Army Air Forces investigated the mission and gathered testimony from the surviving crew members. The statements were consistent. What David had done was unambiguous. On April 9, 1945, General Order No. 26 was issued. David Richard Kingsley was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Major General Ralph P. Cousins presented the medal to David's older brother, Pharmacist Mate First Class Thomas Kingsley of the United States Navy, in a ceremony at St. Michael the Archangel Church in Portland, Oregon on May 4, 1945. The war in Europe ended 4 days later.